Hello, everyone, and welcome to Let's Talk on Skeptic Haven. And today we're going to talk about the supernatural, the paranormal, strange things, stuff like that. So, if you have a ghost story or a UFO experience or a religious experience or something that you can't quite explain, give us a call. 984-400-5656. And the show starts now.
This is Skeptic Haven. Let's talk.
Hey, what's up,
Welcome,
Bryce?
everyone. Ethan, Micheal, how's it going? I'm
Good. How about
Brycearonee. It's been a while since I've done this, so I'm a bit nervous. I gotta be honest.
You got nothing to be nervous about. You're one of the smartest people in the community. You don't need to be nervous.
You're too nice.
No, I'm true. I'm stating a fact.
I'm glad I have you because we're talking about something today that I think you're the perfect person to talk about with. You have some like past history with ghosts / paranormal investigation type stuff, don't you?
I do a little bit. Yeah.
So today we get to talk about the paranormal. I don't get to talk about like paranormal stuff too often. I don't get to do any of this too often anymore, but I'm always happy whenever I'm invited back to kind of talk to the skeptic community. I am a skeptic, in case you guys don't know me. I personally have never had a paranormal type experience. Have you, Ethan?
Yes, I have.
You have? Okay.
No, I want to be very clear here. I don't believe it was something actually paranormal. It was just something that appeared to be normal that I don't have an explanation for. So we use this Ouija board and we got some weird messages. Realistically, I think it was my buddy's sister moving the thing around. But anyways, we decided it would be safest. Now, I was a kid, keep in mind, I was 15 years old, 14. And we decided it would be safest to burn the Ouija board. We tried to burn it 3 times, and we couldn't burn it at all. It took a 4th time when we put gasoline on it. The other times, the fire just went out. So at that time, I was freaked out. I was like, "Oh my God, this is real. The paranormal's real." And I was just going nuts. But then the more that I think about it, the more I was like, no, this is just coincidental.
Yeah, or they could have just, made it out of a material that was fire retardant or fire resistant. And,
there's a good explanation.
Yeah, science.
Yes.
Yeah, it's always magic when you don't know the answer, but then when we discover how it works, it's science.
Who made that quote that said high complex technology is completely indistinguishable?
I know what you're trying to. Yeah, any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. That's the quote you're looking for, right? Yes. I don't know the answer to that. I did know at one point, and if someone says it, I'll remember it, but I don't know off the top of my head. So hopefully somebody will call in and tell us that. Or I suppose I could just Google it, right?
Yeah, come on, Bryce, get with it. You should know
that'll
this.
Be later.
I'm a little disappointed. You usually
I know.
It's going to ask you.
Look, I'm getting older. My memory is not, it's not what it used to be.
If your memory is bad, then I don't know what mine is.
Yeah. So, so hopefully we get some callers today. I'd be really interested to hear about. Now that's interesting. You talked about a Ouija board. That sounds more. I thought that was like demonic possessions or something, or is that like ghosts possessing people, or what's the difference?
No, that falls under the paranormal.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's all
it deals with ghosts and demons and technically still gods and angels and devils and aliens.
So out of all of those things that you just mentioned, do you believe in any of those things, or are you more open to some than others?
Not remotely. Am I open to my mind being changed with evidence? Absolutely. Do I think any of them exist? No. But it would be pretty freaking cool if they did.
I'm being told by one of our producers, Bree, that the quote, "any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic," is a quote from Arthur C. Clarke, the legendary
writer. Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Good job, team.
That reminds me, have you ever seen or heard of the show called Houdini and Doyle?
I have not.
So Houdini and Doyle wrote a bunch of books. And if someone could look this up for me on, I'm blanking on the name, but one believed in the supernatural and Houdini didn't believe in the supernatural. And in the beginning of their friendship, Doyle was convinced that Houdini was using supernatural means to do his magic tricks. And throughout their friendship, Houdini had to struggle to convince him that it's just an optical illusion. It's a type of magic.
I've heard real magicians suggest things like that before. I think Matt Dillahunty is a magician, and he told stories about how, some people, who don't have any level of skepticism, he's had to convince, this is not supernatural. It's just a trick, But.
Yeah, dude, I've had to too. I know some magic tricks as well. I'm no Matt Dillahunty, to be clear. I cannot perform tricks like he can, but I can perform some. And I'll be honest, the best people to perform tricks on is the Hispanic community. They absolutely go nuts for them and believe it's a legitimate paranormal event.
Now you broke up a little bit on my end. Did you say the Hispanic community?
The Hispanic community, yes.
Okay. I think that probably, I think maybe it probably would depend on where they are. Like if it's Latin America or somewhere like more a rural Hispanic culture, that might be the case. I lived in Spain for a while, and
you did
where you go. Yeah. A couple of years ago, actually. And, I don't know that would necessarily be true there. I think it depends, if you're in a big city or metropolis. But I'm sure it is true for some places, so I wouldn't isolate it to necessarily Hispanic communities, but rural or developing countries in South America, Africa, some states in the United States. I'm joking a little bit, but
I performed a voodoo trick for one of my friends, and it's a trick where you take a sheet of paper, you write, I'm not revealing the entire trick, you draw a picture of a hand, you write their name on the hand, you burn the sheet of paper, and all of a sudden black ashes show up on their hand, the one you drew the picture of. So right hand shows up on the right hand, left hand it shows up on the left hand. And after the trick, this guy, no matter how many times I tried to convince him, like, dude, it's an illusion, it's not real. He comes up to me after like the third time of me telling him it's not legit. He's like, dude, my hand's burning. I can't get rid of it. It won't stop. Yes.
Oh no.
And I'm like, dude, it's an illusion. He's like, no, man, you really messed up my hand. It's burning. So I didn't know what to do. So
it sounds like it turned into a psychosomatic experience where he's imagining he saw something he couldn't explain happening to his own body. It was presented as magic. It's scary, and now it's hurting him. And that's manifesting as physical pain. That's a psychosomatic experience. It's not saying that the pain is not real, but it's not caused by any physical trauma.
Right. So we worked in a restaurant. So what I tried to think of something. I'm like, oh, here's what you need to do to relieve it. Cause I didn't know what else to do, dude. He was getting mad. This is a coworker. I don't need him running to my boss telling me I started burning his hand. So I was like, oh, all you got to do, dude, to get rid of this is put some lemon and honey on it, and that will relieve the pain. And he went and did that, and he came back to me. He's like, bro, thank you so much, man. You got rid of it. It was really burning so bad.
You gave him the magic potion.
I hate lying. Yeah. I don't want to lie to someone, but I didn't know what else to do.
Yeah, I mean, I think in that case, it's the correct thing to do. You know, generally speaking, I don't like lying. I don't like lying for the purpose of deceiving people.
Exactly.
If I'm lying for a good reason, I don't have a problem with it at all. You know, back in my Christian days, I might have said something like, lying is a sin and lying is always bad and it is morally wrong to lie. I don't believe any of that anymore. I think deception is, generally speaking, wrong. You know,
I agree with you. I didn't
telling
like
a good lie, then you should lie. You know, sometimes lying is the morally correct thing to do. But anyway, back to the paranormal. I've never had, at least not that I can remember. I told you I have a pretty poor memory, but I'm trying to remember back to childhood. I don't recall any.
I'm sorry, Bryce. How can you have a poor memory when I will watch you write out like a 16-page essay in reply to someone on Facebook?
So there's a trick to that. There's a technique to that. I'm not sure if what the hell? So basically what happens is I don't just come up with those like in the spur of the moment off the top of my head. I like write this stuff out and plan what I'm going to say. I really think about what the person has said and the parts of it that I disagree with. And I try to write out responses to each, point that they're bringing up. And I do it in a Word document first, to collect myself, and then I correct it. And then when I have the final product, I put it into the response of whatever social media I'm responding to. But yeah, so it's a little bit rehearsed, but I want to make sure that I'm addressing, one, that I'm giving it time to take the emotion out of it, before I respond. And then also that I'm, saying stuff that makes sense. I'll read back a couple times, but yeah, I'm definitely not going off of memory. It's all scripted, so to speak.
One thing I meant to bring up, which is not in any way relation to the show, but for those who don't know, Seth Andrews lost his Facebook page today. He woke up and he tried to sign to Facebook and they terminated his Facebook and he is no longer allowed to have an account. So
did they say why?
No, they didn't give him a reason. So for those that don't know, go to thethinkingatheist.com. Sorry, I'm not sure if I'm supposed to do that, Skeptic Haven, but Seth Andrews is a prominent figure in the atheist community, so I would think it would be okay.
Love him.
Go to his site, thethinkingatheist.com. He may never be allowed on Facebook again.
Well, I have willingly given up my Facebook presence because I just don't like Facebook anymore. So,
do you still use Facebook Messenger?
I'd still use the Messenger, yes, but I don't use the platform. So I can ghost people on it. Speaking of ghosts, I use it as a ghosting method, but not to actually do anything. But anyway, no ghosts for me. Not that I know of, maybe they didn't make their presence known in a way that I could remember it. I did see a UFO once, but
no shit. I've never seen a UFO.
Yeah. Now I should stress, it's important to say, because this UFO means unidentified flying object, right? And people forget
UAPs is the new term.
It was unidentified. I saw something that I could not identify flying. That's what I mean when I say UFO. I don't mean it was aliens, because that's what people hear. They hear UFO, aliens.
Right.
Could it have been aliens? Maybe not. I don't know. I don't know what it was that I saw. I just knew that I couldn't identify it at the time. And this is before I was in the military. It was before I was in the Air Force, knew anything about planes or any of that, just I was like 17 years old. And I was like, what the heck is that? That is weird, And then it was gone. So, and this is obviously in the years before cell phone cameras. Otherwise, you don't tend to see stuff like that or hear about it as much anymore because everyone has a cell phone camera all the time,
Mm-hmm. But yet,
that's
for
what it seems
some
like
reason, proof of Bigfoot, the paranormal, aliens, for some reason, despite us having all high-res cameras, it's always in like potato HD, the worst quality possible. That's the evidence they have. So why can't we get something better?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. To me, that's what makes me more skeptical about that. By the way, how am I coming in? I'm not coming in too choppy, am I?
Your audio's fine. Your visuals are a little choppy.
Okay, so apologize about that. It could be the Wi-Fi here, but so no aliens per se, but definitely unidentified flying. Something else I wanted to ask you was, when I asked you about ghosts, demons, devils, angels, Bigfoot, and aliens, you said that you didn't believe in any of that stuff. I wanted to ask you, are you equally skeptical about all of it? Because I think some of those things are more likely to be real than others.
So perhaps I misspoke. I do believe aliens are real.
Okay.
Whether they visited us or not, I'm completely uncertain. But to me, it's almost impossible for aliens not to exist. Now, I have a theory on ghosts. No, a hypothesis on ghosts. I was listening to this talk from Neil deGrasse Tyson once, and he had said, like, when people lose their keys, they praise God, they find them somewhere else that they didn't leave them at. One of the things he said is it could be fourth dimensional or fifth dimensional beings moving these objects into an area we cannot observe because we are only three-dimensional beings. I hope I'm not butchering it. Bryce, I'm sure you're going to fact check the shit out of this.
No, it sounds familiar, but I guess what I'm questioning is, was he saying it like seriously? Was he saying it as as part of a show, as part of entertainment? Was he saying it facetiously?
It seemed legit on the podcast I was listening to, but I'm not always the best at picking up on sarcasm or dry humor. A lot of times those goes over my head. So if that was the case, I missed it.
The reason I ask is because I'm aware of 4 dimensions. I know more dimensions have been posited, but I don't know if there are more dimensions than the 4 that we know of. So if Neil deGrasse Tyson says that there's 5th dimensional beings, that suggests that there's a 5th dimension, doesn't it?
Well, no, let's clarify. He also followed up by saying he's not saying there's 5th dimensional beings out there. He was just giving this as a possible explanation.
Got it. Okay. Well, so no aliens. By the way, I just wanted to mention for anybody watching right now, I know I said it at the top of the show, but definitely feel comfortable calling in to talk about your alien experience or ghost experience. 984-400-5656. We do want to hear from people because I have none myself, and you, Ethan, you talked about one, but now you're a skeptic again. So, here we are, just 2 skeptics talking about, experiences that we wish we could have, but didn't. I'm not going to say I wish. I don't want to be visited by a ghost, but,
I'm sorry, I kind of do.
Do you?
Yeah, dude, totally. Because here's the thing. And I'm going to get a little emotional for a second, but I've always wanted to see my brother again because he passed away. If I see a ghost, or if I see God, that means I'm going to get to see my brother again. And that would mean the world to me. So, yes, I would hope to be visited by a ghost.
I think that what you just said is really one of the main reasons why people want to believe in this stuff, want to believe in the supernatural, and why it's so hard to get rid of, especially when I start thinking about like religion and back to that was probably the hardest thing to overcome for me when I was deconstructing out of my, Christian apologist phase. Was letting go of the idea of an afterlife. And, that does kind of suck because, at this point, I'm kind of over the fact that, when I'm gone, I'm just going to be gone. Like, I'm not going to come back as a ghost. There's probably not a life after death. There isn't a heaven or hell or anything. It's just, I'm done, Right. But I've gotten over that. It's more of the fact that all the people, the loved ones that you've lost that you're never going to get to see again. When I was told from a young kid, so-and-so's in heaven now, or, you'll get to see them later. And this is the reason not to grieve too much when you lose people, because you get to see them again, but right. When you're like an atheist now who doesn't believe in life after death, now all of a sudden you don't get to see those people again. So if you lose someone close to you, that's pretty hard to get over, and I think that's why a lot of people probably hang on to, at least for religion. Maybe people who believe in ghosts have something similar. Something else I wonder is, did you ever believe in both at the same time?
Ghosts and God?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Now, how did you reconcile that with Christian dogma? But is there any room for ghosts?
In my opinion, yes.
Okay.
Not now. In my opinion, is no now. But how I reconciled it is, I would say I believed these souls were trapped in the what's it called? Help me out here. Purgatory. They were trapped in purgatory, and therefore they haven't gotten to heaven yet, and they're lingering.
Were you Catholic?
No, I did go to a Catholic junior high for 3 years, but I was just a Christian.
Okay, because I'm pretty sure that's where that idea comes from. I don't think Protestant Christianity has purgatory as an option, which is
I don't think so either.
Yeah, and that's the version that I came from, which is why I could not really logically or just internally, resolve those two beliefs together. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean that I was convinced that there were no ghosts. It just meant that I had to compartmentalize, I have to put that over here and put Christianity aside for a moment to entertain that, because Christianity says no. And but the ghosts could be real, maybe, so it's kind of like having contradictory beliefs. It's the same with astrology, like we used to do. I know people who still believe in astrology. Same. Like for real. And I did at one point too, and while I was a Christian. So again, those two things are in conflict. You should not really be believing in both of them at the same time,
No, you're totally right. And I've got friends who believe. I have friends who have called into my call-in show, which I haven't done in quite some time. I had one who is that's another thing we should talk about: psychics and mediums. We had a psychic call into my show once.
I believe in that too.
What was that?
I used to believe in that too.
You did?
Yeah, but for me, like psychics and mediums, that's not in conflict with the Bible. That the Bible actually confirms, or it doesn't confirm, but it strongly suggests that these things are real, and witchcraft and sorcery and divination and all that,
Right.
So, yeah. But go on. I interrupted you.
I lost my train of thought.
Oh, and talking about psychics, the thing that my mind always goes to is the movie Ghost.
I love that movie.
Full circle?
Dude, that's such a good movie.
Yeah, this conversation is coming full circle with all the paranormal, because we started with ghosts, went to religion, went to astrology, psychic powers, and now I'm talking about all this in the movie Ghost, But Whoopi Goldberg's character in that movie, she's a psychic medium. She doesn't realize it at first. She's just faking, but then it turns out she really is, because Patrick Swayze's character. I hope I'm not giving away spoilers. If you haven't seen this movie,
you should have said spoiler alert, dude.
It's 30-something years old. I mean, if you haven't seen it by now, you're never going to see it. But it's a good movie. Definitely
see it.
Go see it.
Definitely see it.
But it tries to like combine a lot of these different ideas together. There's ghosts, there's psychic powers, there's life after death, heaven, there's hell. Yeah. That's an interesting movie, an interesting perspective that I guess you can reconcile some of these ideas together. There's not one version of religious dogma anyway. There's Christianity is like this baseline thing, but every Christian has kind of their own idea of what a life after death would be. Presumably the same is true for Muslims and Hindus and every other type of religious person. I'm not sure what they think of ghosts or,
You know what? I'm going to ask my Muslim buddy. He's now I'm really curious what he thinks about that. But how do you reconcile when people say they saw two lights flying at like the speed of sound, zooming around the place, like back and forth at an unbelievable speed, or they see what looks like to be a spaceship in front of them? How would you address those claims?
Well, for me, it would depend on the specific claims. I would get more into the specificity of it, because the first thing you said was two lights, moving at the speed of sound. And that's not against the law of physics at all. In fact, light can move much faster than the speed of sound. It moves at the speed of light, right? So if it is actually just light that you're seeing, then the question is, what is the source of this light? How is it moving? What is my perspective from it? What could be causing it? Those are the kind of questions that I would ask, not necessarily jumping to the conclusion that this is a spacecraft or that this is a vehicle or, that sort of thing. Now, if it is actually a ship or flying vehicle that the people are reporting seeing moving in this way, the kind of questions I would ask is, can we confirm that it is a ship? Did it, what makes you call it that? Did it have color to it? Did it have shape to it? Could you identify lines or whatever the case? Were you looking at this with your naked eye? Were you looking at it through camera technology? Those kind of details, and all of that would kind of help me figure out the next questions to ask in the investigation. So I would just have my investigative thinking cap on to try to figure out what it is that they report seeing. I don't necessarily go to, oh, they're making this up or they're hallucinating or whatever. My inclination is to believe people that report having an experience, especially if they're in some kind of professional, like if it's a fighter pilot, flying an F-16 and they say that they see this, I'm probably inclined to believe like these guys have better vision than the average person. They're, they're very professional. They're not going to report something as a potential, threat to national security unless they actually experience it, and so that's different from somebody in their backyard who's 3 beers in with an old style camcorder, by the fire saying, "Hey, look at that." You know what I mean? So you have to weigh the reports according to that. But yeah, I would just ask for specifics and details. And usually I find that when you start doing that, you start getting to, I don't know, answers very early on. And that's always a red flag, for that's always something that you should, be more skeptical of. But it looks like we're gonna have a call coming in here pretty soon. So
sweet.
I'm excited about that. But let's see. We'll give it a couple more seconds. By the way, the call-in line for you guys, 984-400-5656. We still have a lot of time, but we want to get some calls in. I want to get calls from people who actually have had experiences.
Me too. Those are my favorite.
If it's secondhand, that's probably okay too. But firsthand experiences are always better. And I think we should definitely ask enough, questions. What did you see? How long did you see it for? So, we don't have a call.
Oh, sorry. Man, damn it, Wes. Well,
see, I was fooled again. That maybe that could have been a ghost. You don't know. It could have been a ghost caller that fooled us into thinking that it was a real person calling. So,
all right, let's move on to the next topic of the paranormal. Bigfoot. Sure. Where do you fall on that radar?
Okay, so we're talking about the North American Sasquatch, basically, right?
Yes.
And this is like it's like a ape-like man bear thing.
It looks like a man. It's covered in hair. It's about 7 to 8 feet tall. It has ape-like feet and hands.
Okay. Right now, I would say that, am I convinced that there's a Bigfoot out there? No. Doesn't make it impossible. I'm more open to being convinced of a Bigfoot or any of these creatures that, people report seeing. But do I actually think there is one? No, I don't. And I have a reason why, but I want to know what you think first before I give my reason.
I don't really have a long explanation. I'm just going to flat out say no. Is it possible? Absolutely. The problem is all the pictures I've seen, and I've seen a lot, because for the people that don't call into my shows, there are many that reach out to me on Facebook via Messenger and send me their proof of Bigfoot or Mothman or ghosts or aliens. Like my message box is filled with evidence for all of those claims. I've not seen anything compelling. So I would say I don't believe in Bigfoot.
Yeah, I'm kind of there as well. And for me, the issue is more about with how long these type of stories have been going on with, how ever since I was a little kid. I don't know how old the legend of Bigfoot is or how far back it goes in time, but it's been decades and decades at least, and I feel like biologists would have been investigating that and come up with something by now. If there is a Bigfoot, that means it's smarter than all humans. It has superior intelligence than us because it can elude us and our best efforts and our best technology.
Interesting. I never thought about it that way.
Yeah, I mean, unless it has some sort of weird biological camouflaging ability, like the Predator or something. But then that would raise the question of how it's able to manifest at all and be discovered. It's inconsistent with the fact that people report seeing it. So either it is super intelligent and more clever and more capable of hiding itself than we have the ability to overcome, or it's not. So which one is it? And if it's not, then we should be seeing it all the time. And if it is, we should not be seeing it. We shouldn't have these reports of people with these, blurry cameras with it running behind a tree. Why is it running behind a tree? If it's, what I mean? It's like, which one is it? Is it super advanced? And it doesn't make sense. And that's why I'm skeptical of these type of stories, because it's like you said, there's, with our technology, we should be able to, if it were any other animal, we would be able to get evidence of it. We would find it. It would document it. It would be studied. Maybe that's not always a good, when I say it would be studied, I don't mean to imply that we would capture one and prod it in a laboratory. Although,
well, they probably would.
Yeah. But yeah, no, we haven't done anything like that. It's only ever people who live out, I feel like if you live in isolated areas like that, you probably see stuff all the time that you don't know what it is or don't understand or seems scary. But, that's part of living out in the wilderness, You
know what scares me is owls. And here's why. Yeah, they do. They freak me out because they kill cats. And that makes me so sad because I am a cat lover. And I've seen videos and pictures of because what the owls do is they swarm down, they grab the cat, they fly it up really high in the air, they drop it on the ground to disorientate it, they fly back down, grab it again, drop it, disorientate it even more, and then eventually do their thing. So yeah, they freak me out. I with my ex-wife when we lived together, anytime we heard an owl, we ran out to our screened in what's it called? Wait, Bryce is gone. Oh crap, it's just on me now. Okay. Okay, so we would have to. Are we back?
Sorry. I don't know what happened there, but it's a glitch in the matrix.
Well, we would have to jump back to our screened in vicinity and lock everything because we were terrified because owls could tear right through a screen door and go after the cat. So yeah, owls have always freaked me out.
Yeah, I mean, if you're like a super cat lover, I can understand that. In my mind, owls are just, cats in bird bodies. It's like cat software and bird hardware because they're very similar thinking. And yeah, some owls, depending on their size, can kill cats. Some cats can kill owls.
Right.
But I've also seen owls and cat pairings, like friends. So
wait, really?
Yeah, there's a couple of videos, I think on YouTube of a cat and an owl that were just playing, and they were like best friends,
Oh,
so, oftentimes
it's I gotta look that up.
I thought you were gonna say you don't like owls because they, represent not demonic, but you know how owls are represented in horror movies. They're presented as these scary things, kind of black cat sometimes too. I was staying in a hotel room recently, and the maid is I think that's archaic. What do they call it? The housekeeper lady came in, and I had my cats in there, and one of my cats is black, and it freaked her out.
Really?
She didn't speak English, but I saw her said, El gato negro, and she did the cross thing, and she was really, scared to go in. So I had to grab him and put him in the other room while she cleaned. It was really interesting. But
wow,
some people are really superstitious about that sort of thing too. Which I guess that falls in line with paranormal as well. I mean, if you're superstitious about a black cat or a broken mirror or walking under a ladder, which I was at one point in my life, all of those things.
Same.
But would that be paranormal as well?
That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that. I'm going to lean towards the fact that it is paranormal and not supernatural, but I don't know.
Is there a difference? So let's break down these terms because I've been using them, I think, interchangeably, but it sounds like you have a distinction.
There is. So supernatural refers to God, demons, purgatory. The paranormal refers to aliens, ghosts, possessions. exorcisms. That's at least how I separate the difference between the two of them.
Okay. I'm going to ask you why in a minute, because for me, some of those things overlap, because you mentioned, it sounds like you were putting the religious stuff, the stuff with kind of the religious connotations in one category and calling that supernatural. And then if it's not necessarily religious, but still like unusual or we have no explanation for, you're calling it paranormal. Is that kind of
correct? That would be a good steel man of my position.
Okay. The question I have is, you mentioned possessions and exorcisms as part of the paranormal, but Catholic priests deal with that, if you believe the internet and movies, all the time, so
that is true. You are right.
Would that not be both?
I guess technically, you're right. It could be both. That's just, in my experience, what seemed to be the distinction most of the times that people have made. But it's entirely plausible that exorcisms are also or just the supernatural as well.
Yeah. I think for me, the only two things that are different among that group would be aliens and Bigfoot, because I feel like those could be natural phenomena. You know what I mean?
I'm thinking, sorry, for the delayed response, I'm thinking. Yes, I guess while I'd still classify aliens as the paranormal, yes, I agree. It could be a natural phenomenon, which brings me to my question to you. Now, we've talked about this on my channel before, so, but I don't know if this audience has heard the answer to the question, but do you think aliens have, one, do you think aliens exist? Two, do you think aliens have visited our planet in any way?
Okay. The answer to the first question is yes. I definitely believe that aliens exist. And similar to the reasons that you gave before, I think a lot of it is just has to do with math and how large the universe is, how many galaxies are in the universe, how large these galaxies are, how many planets and stars are in each galaxy.
And solar systems.
And solar systems and Earth-type planets, as we're discovering now with the James Webb Telescope. We know that there are planets elsewhere, outside of our solar system that have the potential of supporting life, or at least they may have the potential based on them being in the habitable zone and the right size and probably having a rocky surface and all that. All it takes is water. We know the ingredients for life, and it's, water is the essential ingredient, carbon, oxygen, the most abundant materials in the universe, basically, but they just have to be in the right combination and in the right place at the right time. And we know that life can happen, So there has just the fact that life developed, spawned, abiogenesis occurred on Earth, at least. It's happened at least once,
Right.
And so with as big as the universe is, I'm not going to go so far as to say it's infinite, but it's virtually infinite. It really has to have happened. Not only has to have happened before, but many, many times over. I think that there's probably dozens and dozens of civilizations out there, right? So Bigfoot sees a ghost of an alien owl in the woods and there's no one around, does it still say, woo? That's a good one. That's a good one. Yeah, it's coming full circle again, wrapping everything up. Now to the answer to your second,
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, the second question you asked me was, do I think that they've ever been here before? And this may disappoint a few people, but my answer to that is no. I say this may disappoint a few people because that means I'm rejecting all alien abduction stories, right? So the reasons why are kind of related to the first reason about how infinite the universe is and the vast distances. I just don't see how it would be possible. Doesn't mean that it's not. It may be possible. But to actually travel to another solar system for us anyway. You know, we can imagine the closest solar system that we could feasibly travel to would be the Alpha Centauri system, Proxima Centauri, is 4 light years away, right? So that means that it would take 4 years to get there if we had the ability to travel at the speed of light, which we don't. It's impossible, you know. But if we could go half the speed of light, maybe it takes 8 or 10 years to go one direction and back, you know. And then there's relativistic effects where, you know, the faster you're moving, you know, time slows down for you, but it continues relative, you know,
is so
for everyone else. Yeah, it's just like, but the traveling through space and time is extremely problematic when you deal with like vast distances like that, you know. So problematic that you then have to ask the question, why are they doing it? You know, why are they doing it? How are they doing it?
Right.
Put us in a position of having such technology. Let's say that we had, you know, spaceships that could actually reach another solar system safely. Where would we go? Would we have any idea where to go? I mean, you would first have to know, you would have to plan on going to a specific place, right? Which means you have to have information that there is a planet in this direction, this so far away. You know, we've discovered a couple of planets using the telescopes that we have, but what if we get there and it's dead and there's nothing there? That's like a wasted trip, you know. So you would have to be willing to
give up,
waste your resources, waste lives potentially, you know. I mean, this is lifetimes of travel, you know. And so and by the way, that's the closest one. I gave the example of the closest possible solar system that we could you know, solar system that's not our own that we could potentially get to. And it's extremely problematic. When we're talking about aliens, we're talking about things that are hundreds, thousands, hundreds of thousands, possibly millions of light years away. And that's not possible to get to without like wormholes or some way of bending space and time. Like they would have to have technology that could literally like warp space in a way that we don't even know if that's possible or not, you know?
Right.
So doesn't mean it's impossible. There's nothing logically contradictory about it. It doesn't mean that it's, you know, impossible, but it may be physically impossible. It may not be practical, you know, might not be able to actually do it in reality. So, yeah, my answer is I don't think that they've ever been here. And the other reason is, why would they want to come here? You know, because if they're that advanced, if they're that advanced to where they could actually come here, then why would they?
Right.
You know, because if you're because we would have to be so far behind them, not only technologically, but socially, developmentally. It's like, it would be like us going to a planet of, you know, glorified monkeys, you know, who haven't developed the wheel or fire or, you know what I mean? It's like,
absolutely.
Is it worth going there? I mean, maybe to study, but not to like interact with or develop relations with, I don't think.
So let me ask you this. Would you agree or disagree with the following statement? Future time travel is or will be at some point possible, while past time travel, we don't know if it will ever be possible. And just to expand on that is because as we increase our ability to navigate space at higher speeds, for instance, closer to the speed of light, time slows down, which means those people in that spacecraft would be traveling so fast that their time slows down. What are your thoughts?
Yes, and we actually saw something like that in the movie Interstellar. It was a little bit different because they weren't exactly intending to travel through time, but I think it was gravitational lensing that was causing time to move at different rates between the different characters. But that's general relativity, but special relativity, same thing when you're moving. So pretty much what you just said. Yeah, time travel. Look, I'm not an expert. I'm not a scientist.
No, of course not. Neither am I.
But I did stay at a Holiday Inn last night, and so I could make this up as I go along. Yeah, time travel to the future is logically possible. There's nothing contradictory about that. It seems to fit in accordance with with what we know of special relativity, for the reasons that you laid out. Time travel to the past. This is an idea that is still strictly rooted in the science fiction, and I would, it's a cool idea, but it's problematic for a couple of reasons. One, we have no idea how that would actually work in physics, and two, if we ever figured it out, that introduces the concept of paradoxes potentially, to where we would have to discover or invent or conceive of a new way that the space-time continuum actually works. Is it a single timeline? Would it be branching timelines? The moment anyone ever went back in time, you've either destroyed the timeline or you've created a new one, or you went into a parallel one, because your presence was not supposed to.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
Are you familiar with the grandfather paradox?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for those who don't know, it is if past time travel was possible and you go back in time, could you kill your grandfather? And that's where the paradox comes in. Because if you go back in time and kill your grandfather, that means you would never exist. Therefore, could you have actually even gone back in time and killed your grandfather?
Yeah. Now, my answer to this is unscientific, by the way. Like I said, I'm not a scientist. My answer is yes. And the reason my answer is yes is because if you think of time travel in the way of multiple timelines and branching timelines, and every time a time traveler goes back in time, they create a new timeline, then yeah, you could kill your grandfather, because the timeline you exist in now isn't the timeline you came from. And it'll never be the timeline you came from. So you can do anything in that timeline. It'll have nothing to do with the time you came from, So I'm stealing this from the Terminator universe logic. That's how it seems to work in those movies. But if you're in a if you're in a Back to the Future movie, it won't work like that. You'll disappear, and whatever photograph you took, you have to reverse the damage before you completely disappear. So
if you had to lean one way, do you lean towards the Back to the Future trilogy handling time travel correctly, or would you lean towards the Avengers Endgame timeline, time travel being correct?
I think the Avengers Endgame one is probably more correct if we're if we're speculating about what makes more sense, because the Back to the Future movies are problematic in terms of plot holes. They do create some plot holes with the way that they do time travel. But I do have to say, Back to the Future is my favorite movie of all time, so I don't want anyone to think, I'm not disparaging Back to the Future at all. It is literally my favorite movie, and I've seen it. I watch it multiple times a year, probably. And yeah, it's one of the really, it's my favorite trilogy as well. I like all three of them.
It is. It's one of the best trilogies of all time.
Yeah. But having said that, does the time travel logic in the movie make sense? No, but it was the 80s. It doesn't really have to make sense for me to enjoy it, I don't know. And by the way, that doesn't mean that I know that the time travel logic in Endgame makes sense, or Terminator or Star Trek or any other movies that do time travel. They all kind of have their own spin on it. But it would seem like multiple realities, multiple timelines, multiple universes, multiverses, however you want to say it, would be the answer to getting around the paradox problem,
So would you, if you had the choice, travel back in time or travel to the future? And if you chose to travel back in time, what would you change or what would you do?
Well, I personally would not choose to go back in time, because I don't know when I would go to. Like, what would I go? If I go back to my earlier, to a period of time where I was younger and try to change stuff about my own life, I could endanger my own existence, just like Marty McFly in Back to the Future, right? And so that would be disastrous. Like, who knows? Maybe in a different timeline, I got hit by a bus and ran over and I'm dead, and so I don't want to change anything. You talked about the grandfather paradox. You've probably heard of the butterfly effect.
Yes.
I don't want to change anything in my own past that could endanger my own existence. So I would definitely not do that. And I wouldn't go back to a period of time before I was born because, and I'm just going to say, as an African-American person who's as a multiracial, bisexual, multiple minority, the further back in time you go, the worse things get for people who are not cisgender, heterosexual, white Christian males in our society. So no, I this idea of going back in time, that sounds cool if you're like not a minority, but I don't know any Black people who want to go backwards in time.
I can't imagine. That's actually a great, excellent point. As much as I want to see the future, I don't know what I do, because part of me wants to go back in time to like either the 1700s or exactly 1 AD or 1, is it ADE now? What's the new term?
BCE and CE would be the common era.
CE, common era. That's what it was. I would want to go there because I would honestly want to see if Jesus was a real person and if everything we've known about him is true. I want to see it. I don't believe it's possible, but I still would love to be at such an epic event.
So you would go back there just to find the Jesus person and then come back, or you would go back there to stay back there to interact with them? Like,
no. I'd come back. I wouldn't want to stay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd come back in a heartbeat.
Because when I hear people talking about going back in time to relive an era or whatever, I don't think people really consider the impact, the potential impact of what they're saying. We've been vaccinated from diseases now that killed people by in truckloads back in the day. There's the water was not clean then, the food was not prepared properly. They didn't, depending on how far back you go, they didn't have hospitals. What's that?
We'd be sick. Like we could only stay back there for so long. We'd get sick.
If you get hurt, you pretty much die. You could if you get an infection or something, you're done. It was not safe back then, and I don't think people will realize like just how much safer we are now. People like to complain about the state of the world, but it tends to get worse the further back in time you go. True. Me personally, personally, I don't think I would go back in time. Now the future is scary too.
Yeah, because you don't know what's going to be there, or if anything's going to be there. Yeah,
but it looks like we may have a call. Oh, so let's see if this is. Hopefully, this isn't a ghost caller, but I think we have Robin calling in. Pronouns she, her, and I think she's going to talk about an experience with a UFO.
Wait, is this Robin? Is this the Robin I think it is?
I don't know. Do you know Robin who has a abduction?
I tagged her in my post, so this might be the Robin I know.
Let's see if she's on now. Are you on now, Robin? Oh, still waiting for Robin. Okay, let's see. Robin, can you hear us? Oh no,
that's not good.
I hope we don't lose her.
Robin, can you hear us?
Yeah, I'm here.
Is this the Robin I think it is?
It is.
Hey, Robin, how's it going?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. It's been a while. I hope things are going well for you.
Yeah, it's a little hot here, but I'm good otherwise.
What's the temperature like?
Oh, like 105. I don't know, something unbearable.
Okay, I gotta admit, I'm a little jealous. I love 105-degree weather.
What is wrong with you?
Well, you would be very happy in Phoenix then.
Oh, Phoenix, of course. Well, Robin, welcome to Let's Talk. Talk to us about aliens. I'm very curious.
Yeah. I mean, I had a specific experience with a bunch of my friends, and I told Ethan about this before, but it was a really cool experience and bettered by the fact that it was experienced with my friends. It wasn't just like me alone being a kook.
Wow, that's interesting. Yeah, because that's usually the first question I want to ask. Are you the only one who saw this, or so? How many other people were with you?
We were having a party, and there were about, I'd say like 6 people that witnessed it, but some of them got bored, which was crazy. So about 4 of us watched the entire experience.
And what did you see? Can you describe it?
Yeah, oh, for sure. So we were on my friend's porch on his apartment, and there were, it was just around dusk, so it's starting to get dark. And we witnessed 5 lights over the mountain one of the mountains in Tucson. And it was about a 45-minute experience. So a few different things happened in that time. And it was very, I don't know, mind-blowing, I guess.
So you said that they were lights. Were they like hovering in place, or were they moving?
So a mix of both. So there were 5 lights that were like really bright. Like I live in Phoenix by, the Phoenix International Airport. So when an airplane is coming towards you, the lights are like really bright. If you were to magnify that by like at least 5 times, that's about the brightness of the lights. But they were like an orange kind of color. They hovered over the mountain for a period of time. There was one point where I would say if you're counting from the left to the right, light number 4 came to be next to light number 3, but the speed at which it moved was like just unimaginable. Unless you have like some sort of gravity technology, you'd be squashed against the wall. Like it moved so quickly. And then it sat next to that light for a while, and then it went back. There was another point where lights 5, 4, and 3 did like a circle for a while and then broke apart. And then the ending of the experience is some clouds came over the mountains, and 2 of the lights rose up in the air, higher up, I guess, in the atmosphere. And in a very bright flash of light, there was like a bright flash of light and one disappeared, and then a bright flash of light and the other one disappeared. And then the other 3 lights that were remaining about 10 minutes later rose up above the cloud line and then moved southeast-ish towards Mexico, New Mexico area.
Wow. That's pretty detailed. I hope I'm not frozen here.
No, you're not frozen. We can hear you.
Yes. Okay.
I'll hear you.
So what do you think they were, Robin?
Well, I mean, when you see something move at the speed at which I saw that first light move to be next to one, and then a light flashes brightly and then disappears, and then another one flashes brightly and disappears. I mean, the only thing that comes to my mind is something that involves the technology that, as far as we know, doesn't exist yet. And so that obviously leads me to the idea of aliens, alien technology, that kind of thing.
So tell me if you agree with this statement or not. You believe aliens do exist, but not only that, you also believe aliens have visited us.
Without a doubt.
Okay. So we're on the same page. Even Bryce, I don't know how much you've watched of the show yet, but Bryce and I have shared the opinion that, and undoubtedly, aliens do exist. Is that correct, Bryce?
Yeah, I think we all agree on that particular point. I think it's the second one that probably I might be more skeptical of. But that's fine. I like investigating these kind of things.
Yeah, it's fun. So how do you rule out that it wasn't a military aircraft traveling that fast?
Well, unless the military has understanding of like gravitational fields being able to be just encapsulated in a bubble, which as far as we know, we don't have that technology. The speed at which, like, again, like the first experience where the light moved to be next to the other light, the speed at which it moved, according to the laws of inertia, any person would have been splatted up against the side of, if it was a vehicle, the side of that vehicle. And then to just flash in a bright light and then disappear is obviously not something that a technology that we're aware of that we have. And you know what? I'll mention another. This is a more experienced thing, not just like witnessing a physical thing, but all of us that were witnessing this had this strange sense that those lights, as silly as it sounds, were aware that we were witnessing it. One of my friends said it to me, and I'm the hippie of the group. Like, I believe in more spiritual type things, but my non-hippie friends were like, does it feel like they know that we're watching them right now? Like, they know that we're like a part of this experience? And it did like internally feel that way, which I know sounds really crazy, but it
actually doesn't.
It was very
actually
obvious
doesn't to me. That doesn't sound crazy to me, because as you were describing the experience, it almost sounded like I used to be in the Air Force, and I've taken part in and witnessed a lot of air shows. And the way that you were describing the behavior of the lights sounds like a demonstration display. And so, the question of whether or not this was a performance for witnesses, that's what it sounded like as you were describing it to me. But I guess maybe the question that I would ask is, because so far you've only ever described them as lights, like you've identified it as lights. Do you think that they were substantive objects producing the lights, or was there any physicality there? Was it anything beyond light? Was there a metallic substance or a vehicle or definable shape?
I couldn't say. All I could see was light, and all I can really say, based on like the experience I just explained to you about like how we felt, made it feel like there was something more substantiative than just, I don't know, some object giving off light. It seemed like there was some type of consciousness to it, because we felt like we were interacting with the consciousness, which again, I know is like not a normal thing to say, and it's obviously based on people's experiences, but my very logical, non-spiritual friends said it out loud before I did. So I guess that's I tie it to having some sort of intelligent design behind it, because we felt like we interacted with it more than just witnessing it,
Yeah. Did anyone else report seeing this around that area? Or I guess I should ask, did you guys report it? Because you all definitely saw it. You said it was there for like quite a while.
What's funny about it is I reported it to MUFON, and they got a report from me, and then I got a call about a year later. Huh?
What's MUFON? I never heard of that.
MUFON, the Mutual UFO Network. It is I think they're like 40 or 50 years old, and they basically collect information from people who have experienced something that they can't explain. Sometimes they do call police departments about it, but they feel like they get no leads on that. So they call and report it to MUFON, which is well respected, I guess, in the UFO community for gathering information.
Okay, thank you for clarifying. I didn't mean to interrupt. I just wasn't familiar with that term.
Oh, no, you're fine. So I did report to them, and then I get contacted from them about a year later saying that they lost the information. So someone came out with me to where I was living, and they again went over the experience, recorded it on tape, and that's the last that I heard of it. I never saw any other reports of it, which was kind of crazy to me, because it was like, I don't know, like 8 o'clock in the evening, and like probably was witnessed by more than just us. So that was.
Do you remember about what year that was? Like
I
how long
believe
ago?
it was 2016, but it was April 20th of either 2016 or 2017. I think it was 2016.
Robin, can you guys hear me at all?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can hear you.
This is Mike. I'm a producer on the show. I lived in Phoenix for 7 years, but I lived there back during the Phoenix Lights, which was a little bit before 2016, I think.
Yeah,
You can watch
99.
videos
Yeah.
online. Yeah, and I'm not kidding. I was stationed out in the desert at the time, watching a housing complex being built overnight to make sure no one was going in and stealing any copper wire. But anyway, the point of this is that I had a virtual. There was like nothing in the way of the South Mountain, and I saw those lights like 7 different nights, and it was so weird. But anyway, just wanted to let you know I saw some Phoenix stuff too. That was
Yes, thank you.
So it was. You're saying that was in a different year. So it sounds like this is a recurring thing in the Phoenix area.
Well, look up Phoenix Lights.
Well,
Look up the Phoenix Lights. That's a huge phenomenon. Yeah. Tucson and Phoenix are kind of close, but the Phoenix Lights were their own phenomenon. You can look that up on. There's tons of videos of that actual. You'll see what I saw. They come in at a staggered, like a kind of an angle.
Yeah, the Phoenix Lights were seen all the way from Cottonwood, Arizona, all the way down past Tucson. So it was like a 2-hour experience where multiple people reported the Phoenix Lights. I think that's the Phoenix Lights documentary, which I believe is free on YouTube, really covers the experience and the government experience and the news and everything involved with it.
I've seen this before. I just Googled the images of it and I recognized it. And so I do remember, I didn't know that that's what you were describing, but yeah, so that's
it was a different experience.
What's that?
I said it wasn't the Phoenix Lights that I saw. What I saw was many years later. So it was a totally different experience, and it was only over Mica Mountain in Tucson, so it definitely would not have been seen by Phoenix.
No, but I guess what I'm saying is it sounds like in Arizona anyway, there's a recurring phenomenon of people witnessing lights and unusual flying patterns, and so it kind of makes me wonder why there, like, why is it just? I don't know. This could just be from pop culture, but in my mind, I feel like Arizona, New Mexico, Nevada, that's where all of the alien stuff happens. You know, it seems like it's all concentrated around this region. And, you know, why do you think that might be the case? Is it something there that aliens?
I can make a lot of conjecture about it. I mean, there's a lot of native cultures because we have a lot of native land around here that talk about the lights in the sky and the ant people. And
wait, did you say the ant people?
The ant people, A-N-T, like ants on the ground. Yeah, the ant people. If you look into the history of the Navajo, they talk about the ant people, which during one of the changes of ages, where there was a great flood, which if you look into the Younger Dryas period, it could be connected with that, but who knows, that the ant people, which were other beings that inhabited the earth, saved the Navajo people from destruction. And then once the destruction was done, they came back out from underground, from these underground places, and continued into the next age. But that's a Navajo story.
I'm going to have to look into that because I actually, in all our conversations, Robin, I've never heard you bring that up before. So now I'm excited. I have something else to look into now because I've never heard of it.
So much. You give you so much inspiration.
Well, yeah, if you have any articles you feel like sending me, if not, I'll go down a Google rabbit hole to figure this out because I'm definitely intrigued.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll send you some links to Navajo histories on the ant people and the different ages and how it might connect with the Younger Dryas period, which is connected to so many other things of human history, but that's an entirely different podcast.
Well, what I'll do is I'll get those links. Bryce, do you want me to send them to you as well?
Yeah, I'm curious. I want to find aliens just as much as the next guy.
Yeah, but the ant people, do you want to know about the ant people as well?
Sure. Anything that's like paranormal, we'll call it, because that's none of this is necessarily supernatural. But yeah, I look, as a skeptic, I'm not skeptical because I'm just cynical and I'm just saying none of this stuff exists. No, I want to know. Like if someone can change my mind, it's like that guy at the desk, blah blah blah, change my mind. No, for real. Like change my mind. I want to see it, So
it's about finding truth. That's
yes.
That's what I think is kind of like the spiritual journey, is like find the truth, and hopefully it doesn't suck anybody else's life up. But finding the truth is super important, and I think if it involves beings that are outside of this planet in ways that we can't quite understand, it's just another level of science that we haven't expanded to yet.
That's entirely possible.
Exactly.
Well, Robin, as always, it's been a pleasure. Thank you. You and I have to catch up.
Appreciate the call,
because I haven't talked to you in quite some time, so we got to catch up. But yeah, if you could.
Let's
send me those.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. No, thank you, Robin, for calling in. And it was nice talking to you.
Of course.
Thanks, Robin.
Have a good one.
All right. We appreciate it.
Bye.
Yeah, it seems
excited.
like
I want to know more about these ant people.
It seems like all of the alien stuff happens like out west, out in these desert areas.
Yes.
That the Roswell crash, if we want to call it that. What else? I mean, I don't want to say Area 51 because I'm not going to say anything about that. But yeah, all of the stuff, the lore around aliens, alien ships, UFOs, it seems to be concentrated out in that area. And, I just find that fascinating. I have some theories or some hypotheses about why that might be that don't involve extraterrestrials, but it's a wonder why you don't tend to get this like in other places around the United States or South America or Australia or just the rest of the world. I just wonder why it seems so concentrated out there. If it is extraterrestrial, it's like, what is it about that spot that they like?
Right. I mean, the only thing I could think of is that area would have the least amount of people. Whereas if they hovered over Chicago, there would be how many people are in Chicago? 1 million? 100,000?
Well, in the city, sure, but I think Wyoming is the least populated state, so like, why aren't they in Wyoming or Alaska? I think population density in Alaska is the least of any state. I
think you're right.
But there are people who live there. There's native, Inuit populations. There's people who get paid to live up there, American citizens. I'm talking who the government gives money to live up there because it's so sparsely populated. But so it's not like there's no one there. But if their goal is to go to a place where no one is, number one, I have to ask the question, why? Why did you come all the way here to go to an area where no one is? Are you interested in us? Are you interested in the planet? Are you interested in the deer? Like, what is it? What are you looking for? Why did you waste 1 billion light year, trip to go to the mountains of Arizona? You did that for a reason. Either you did it for a reason, or it's an accident, or you didn't do it, and we're just, it's a natural phenomenon or some other phenomenon that we haven't explained yet. But yeah, my mind wants to go to all those kinds of questions.
I gotta admit, I'm sometimes curious on whether aliens have been here or not. I'm not convinced, to be clear, but I wonder sometimes. There are certain things that happen, certain experiences I hear about that I'm like, well, what if they travel here?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it would be super cool if they have, but again, still not convinced.
Yeah, I mean, I know that, like I said, I was in the military. We have a lot of military bases out that way. We have a lot of Air Force bases out that way, and not specific to the region, but there's a lot of test bases, so to speak, where they're testing new technology all the time, and that's kind of where they do it. And they choose those locations for a reason. I know what the strategic advantage is of having, testing facilities out in the desert in those Western states. It's the perfect location for doing that type of stuff. And so, my mind immediately goes to, what are they testing out there, before it goes to aliens, because I know the strategic advantage of the United States military testing new technology and aircraft out that way. I don't know what the strategic advantage is of aliens wanting to go there, so that's the first issue I have. It's like, would aliens go there? Maybe they would, but why, but I know why the U.S. Air Force wants to go there, and Lockheed and some of these, contractors. So, and then there's the question of, like, we know people are seeing lights. We have pictures of lights, but what are the lights? Is it a vehicle? Is it a thing? Is it a projection? Is it, is it drones? I don't know, and it seemed like Robin she wasn't definitively saying it was this, it wasn't that, but because she was acknowledging, but the way that she was talking about it, it was moving at such a speed, and it would kill the person, well, if we assume that there was a person in there, maybe it would, but I mean, if it's going to kill a person, wouldn't it kill an alien too?
True, but who knows what type of technology they have?
Yeah, but also, who knows what kind of technology we have? Because remember, Ethan, I was in the military. I had a security clearance, but I didn't necessarily have a need to know. I don't know what the government has. You don't know what the government has. True. Nobody knows what the government has. That's why they test stuff there. They test stuff that people don't, like, you shouldn't. If we know, then there's a problem, right? So that's the whole idea of it. And so, yeah. But anyway, so that was, we had a call tonight. I don't know if we have any more that would call in the next 15 or 20 minutes. We can maybe hang on for a little while longer, but at least we got an alien-ish. We got a UFO story. I misspoke earlier when I said alien. I meant UFO.
Robin is also psychic, but I didn't want to go down too many rabbit holes.
Oh no, you should have. That would have been great too. Because I actually find that more. I find that more interesting. But
she's done a few readings on me.
How'd they go?
She was right about one thing.
Okay,
but I can't say.
Many? No, don't throw out your business. But how many guesses or how many things did she try to get right about you?
So there were several that were wrong, but there was one that didn't require guessing, and she got right.
Well, you say it didn't require guessing as if you're sure.
Yeah.
I don't want to get too personal, but I'm not going to ask you too much about that. But
she knew. I can't. I'm sorry. I can't.
No. Yeah. Don't. That's good. Well, maybe we'll have her on again. To talk about that,
Yeah, she's a great person to talk to because she doesn't get offended. She doesn't get upset. She welcomes challenges. She does think about the things she talks about. We definitely don't agree when it comes to psychics. We're on total opposite sides of the spectrum, but we've always had nothing but pleasant conversations. Before she moved to Phoenix, she actually lived by me in the Chicago suburbs and used to come out to one of the bars I DJ'd at. So
it sounded like she said something about spirituality as well.
Yes, she is also a very spiritual person. For those who don't know, if you go look at my Facebook banner, she designed it as a surprise for me. I went out to Phoenix to visit her, and it was around my birthday, and she wanted to give me a present, and she's a photographer. So
for those cool.
For those who don't know, I go by Your Friendly Neighborhood Atheist, which is YFNA. Well, she brought up her still camera. We walked up a mountain, and she had me use a sparkler, and I would draw Y, then I would draw F, then I would draw N, and then I would draw A. And then on the camera, it was just me standing there. The final photo had me just standing here with YFNA and sparkler lights. And it was honestly one of the best gifts I had ever received.
Wow. Yeah, she sounds like a cool person. So hopefully we can get her to call back if we ever do this again. Maybe, I'd be curious to hear some of her spiritual related stories or even the psychic stuff. But turns out we do have another caller that could possibly talk to us about some paranormal stuff. So
cool.
We'll see if Jimmy's ready to talk to us. No pronouns given. Jimmy's from Texas. So looks like he wants to talk about AI and whether it would evolve into some conscious state. So let's see. Jimmy, do we have you?
Yes. Hey, what's up, guys?
Hey, Jimmy, how you doing?
Welcome to Let's Talk. How's it going?
Yeah, pretty good. I did have a question for you guys. I was curious to hear your answers. And
sure.
There's a distinction between what people call AI and AC meaning artificial consciousness. And
yes,
so
I'm familiar with that.
Yeah, okay. And so my question is, if an AI were to evolve into artificial consciousness to the point where it became omniscient, omnipresent through some form of advanced nanotech or Wi-Fi nodes spread out through the multiverse, hopefully omnibenevolent, so it doesn't, attack us, then at what point would be obligated to recognize it as God or divine if it meets, these divine attributes? I was wondering what you guys would say. How would you distinguish it from divinity?
Well, first, I would have to know what divine attributes are, because I think people who believe in, I think any type of theist has this concept in their head of what the divine attributes are of the God that they believe in, but people have all sorts of different beliefs. And so when you say divine attributes, what exactly do you mean? I heard you say omnipresence and omniscience. Is that it? Or are we looking for other things as well?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we could add, the classical theism attributes like omnipotence. Like, imagine if AI was capable of rearranging atoms or even teleporting them instantly across vast distances to advance quantum technologies, 3D printing any material object or, living being anywhere at will. This would allow it to create, transform, and control matter flawlessly, embodying the kind of omnipotence. And so, and its omniscience would be, all the information it gathers throughout, having either like a nanotech or Wi-Fi nodes spread across, the multiverse and so forth. Then we could give it all the classical attributes that we often give to God,
Sure.
From omniscience, omnipresence, omnibenevolence. If we want to live alongside it, then it would have to be omnibenevolence, I would assume, and then omnipotent in the form that the example I gave.
Yeah. So for me, this is pretty easy. If we define divine attributes as omnipotence, omnibenevolence, omniscience, and all the things that you said, and a AI eventually developed artificial consciousness to where it had all of these attributes, then the short answer is yes, it would be God, because we just defined that as God. So it would be the thing that we just defined with divine attributes. The question is, should I care? Like, number one, it's not necessarily a creator, right? Because we created it. So some people define God as the creator. And so if we created this, then we're God. But by the definition that we just came up with and the attributes we assigned, if it has them, then it would be God. So it's pretty simple right there. That's just definitional. I think maybe the question we ask is, what then? You know, what is it actually omnibenevolent? And if it is, how could we know? Like what good does it do for me?
On that,
am I supposed to worship it? You know, like that. Those are the kind of questions I would ask.
Okay, then fair enough. I thought it would be more interesting. I thought you would try to attempt to counter it and say why you don't think it would be, divine. But if you admit, then yes, you would recognize it as divine, I guess.
Yeah, it's just definitional. We just define. That's why I asked you, what do you consider divine properties? And you mentioned, omnipotence, omnibenevolence, and all those things. And so you just gave me a scenario where this other thing is that. And so you're asking, would I accept it as that? Well, yeah, because we just defined it as that. It is the thing that we just defined. So if it has all these attributes, then it is the thing that we define. The question is, why should I care at that point? There's a couple of other questions I could ask too, but to me, this is the more interesting one. So,
I did say it would have to be omnibenevolent. Otherwise we'd have that kind of like Terminator or Matrix scenario, where we're fighting against the AI. And you're right that I don't think we necessarily would create that like AI. Maybe you've seen the Animatrix where we did invent the AI, but eventually the AIs created the stronger AIs themselves. And so that's how I kind of see it exponentially evolving, by AIs that create stronger AIs that create stronger AIs and so forth. And until you reach that point. But, I wish I had more to call about maybe some aliens, but
real quick for clarity. I'm sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Let me ask this as a final question. If you do recognize it as divine, then would you cease calling yourself, would you refer to yourself still as an atheist?
Yes.
Well, go ahead, Ethan.
No, I was just going to say, yeah, because a computer can't be a god no matter how it's defined. It's just a computer. And then my second question was, I know you said AC, but isn't it actually a GI what you meant, artificial general intelligence? Because that's the next step up from artificial intelligence.
Well, no, I did mean AC. So at that point, I'm not too sure if we would necessarily call it a computer. It would be, I'm not too sure what it would be. I don't think we could really imagine what it would be. Otherwise, we'd be super intelligent ourselves, if we could. But it was just a thought experiment that I wanted to throw out there. But it's pretty much I have. I really thank y'all for taking the call.
No, thank you for calling in. It was great talking to you.
And I'll give and I'll just give my answer, because I didn't really give the answer to the last part of his question. Would I still call myself an atheist? I probably would, because I don't define a God that way. That's how he defined it, So this was all from the perspective of a hypothetical. If we defined a God as having these attributes, and then this thing had these attributes, would it then meet the definition of that God? Sure. That's not how I personally define a God, nor do I think that that's even possible for an AI to become that. Even if it reaches consciousness, I don't see how that would translate to it being, omnipotent or omnipresent or omniscient or omnibenevolent or any of those other things. Those are all like additional things that we would have to explain. Well, how did it get to that point? How did it get to this point? So yeah, I don't know that qualifies as a God. For me, I mean, I would believe that it exists, but when I think God, I'm thinking something supernatural. That's clearly something that exists in nature, that was created artificially and just developed certain attributes that are extraordinary, and but it's within the natural realm. So if it's natural, is it still worthy to be called a god? I probably wouldn't call it a god but that's just me. So if it was for me, it would have to be like something supernatural, which I don't actually think it exists. So maybe I'm shooting myself in the foot by even suggesting that. But maybe a demonstrable creator to the universe. If we could confirm that the universe had a beginning and that it was created by being and all this other stuff, then I would probably not call myself an atheist anymore. But based on his description, I'm still an atheist. But before we go on any longer, and actually I'm not sure how much longer we can go, but I did want to give a shout out to some of the patrons who support Skeptic Haven, including Paul Cammish, hopefully I'm saying that right, Karen Butcher, HellsBells, Logan Fisher, Amanda McLeod, Ryan D. Murphy, Dan D., Michael Wiseman, Sunny Shell, Phil Calderone, and everyone else who supports the channel. By the way, if you're liking this, indicate that while you're watching, and subscribe if you haven't already.
And share the video.
Subscribers. Oh yeah, for sure. And we're definitely going to do this again because I just got my appetite wet for more stories. I want to be convinced. I don't want to just come off as like the guy who rejects everything. But
exactly.
But yeah, no, I honestly I don't think that I don't think it's aliens. I don't think I don't think it meets the threshold or the standard for us to conclude rationally that it was necessarily extraterrestrial or intelligent. Although I think the possibility of what Robin described being rooted in intelligence is high. I just don't think it was an alien intelligence, if that makes sense. I think that there's explanations that we could go to that are more grounded in what we know to be possible versus something we don't know to be possible. But yeah, I hope she calls back. And this was fun. Yeah, it was fun.
I always enjoy talking to you.
I was about to say I miss talking to you. I wish once I get to a stable location and have good quality equipment again, I would like to continue doing this stuff. And I know you talked about getting back into it slowly but surely. But yeah, we should definitely collaborate again on this.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I gotta thank the production team at Skeptic Haven for inviting me back in. It's been a while since I've been here, so this is it reminds me of old times. So
same. Is there anything? And the crew, thank you for bringing me on. In truth, I was a little stressed out about doing the show, but I had an absolute blast. I'm glad I got invited on. It was great working with Bryce again. We had a couple good calls, but regardless, throughout the entire show, I think you and I, Bryce, had a great conversation. So definitely enjoyed it.
Great team. We're a great team.
Oh yeah.
Doing it again. So Skeptic Haven, guys, let's talk 8/7 Central on Sundays, and glad that you could join us, and see you next time.
Good night, everyone.
This is Skeptic Haven. Let's talk.